Can Accutane, also known as isotretinoin, raise your risk of rhabdomyolysis? Maybe. In the next few minutes, I want to show you some research on this and sum it all up at the end with some questions you may want to speak to your doctor about. Let's go. Now, what is isotretinoin? It's a drug derived from vitamin A. It's called a retinoid drug. And while I'm going to call it Accutane, because that's how I know this drug by, note that it can have other names depending on the lab that made this compound. Now, it's commonly used for acne, but it may have other benefits as well. And while this video is going to be on isotretinoin, there is a similar drug out there called tretinoin. They're both used for acne for the most part. Big difference is isotretinoin is an orally taken drug. You actually take it by mouth. And tretinoin is usually a topical cream. So while I looked into tretinoin and its risk of rhabdomyolysis, I saw a few things out there, but usually people had existing medical problems. Most of the stuff I saw on rhabdo concerned isotretinoin. Regardless, if you have rhabdo or had a history of rhabdo, it's good to talk to your doctor about either one of these medications. Now, rhabdomyolysis is a condition that is marked by an increase in an enzyme called creatine kinase. That's one of the hallmarks of this disorder. And it turns out that isotretinoin, Accutane, can also raise creatine kinase level. In theory, this might mean that together they might raise the risk of rhabdo than either exercise or isotretinoin alone might. Now, I noticed in this sentence here, they note that isotretinoin may raise the risk of fatal rhabdomyolysis. I can appreciate the wording that they're using here because not everybody fares so well when they get rhabdo. I actually have a video that I'll put in the description where I discuss the people who unfortunately have passed away from rhabdomyolysis. So you might want to check that out for more insights. So here we've got an interesting study. It's a 10-year-long study, almost a 10-year-long study, 246 men and women. They're given isotretinoin for acne, and they noted that in many of these individuals, they had not only one, but sometimes multiple instances of elevations in that creatine kinase enzyme. Sometimes the levels were 4 times higher than normal. So there have been multiple studies showing that this increase in creatine kinase level can occur. I wanted to bring this to your attention for another reason, because most of the people who experienced elevations in creatine kinase were men. Women actually made up fewer cases of elevations in creatine kinase. So that doesn't necessarily mean that women are not going to experience any side effects with creatine kinase, but it does appear that maybe the drug affects men more than women. Again, something to keep in mind if you're taking this medication. So what's the research on isotretinoin and rhabdomyolysis and creatine kinase? So we've got this investigation from many years ago. We've got 26 people. Again, interesting, it's mostly men. And they're given the isotretinoin drug, and they note that in almost 62% of the participants, their creatine kinase levels increase. Now, what is interesting is these researchers pointed out that the major determination why their creatine kinase levels went up was their exercise. Neither their baseline exercise level nor their isotretinoin therapy had any effect on creatine kinase by themselves. It appears that when they were combined, that's when you saw an increase in creatine kinase. Again, pointing out that in people who exercise who take this medication, there may be an increased risk of rhabdomyolysis. Remember, elevations in creatine kinase can be a hallmark sign of rhabdomyolysis. So what other research do we got here? Well, we've got this investigation from basically a report of a 23-year-old guy. They call him a practicing bodybuilder for many years. Interestingly, 1 month before he starts taking the isotretinoin Accutane drug, he stops working out, okay? And then he goes on the medication, and about a week and a half after starting the isotretinoin medication, he starts getting muscle pain. His urine starts turning brown colored, which is another sometimes symptom of rhabdomyolysis. And again, the pain gets worse after he begins his weightlifting exercise routine again. What I find interesting is he did take a month off, and is it possible that taking a month off could have been a contributing factor? Many of the individuals that I run into who've gotten rhabdo have gotten it after either doing unaccustomed exercise or after taking a break for exercise. It's hard to say either way, but it does hint that there is some relationship between isotretinoin and the development of rhabdo. We've got this other investigation of a 17-year-old guy. He's exercising moderately. He's taking isotretinoin for 2 months, and he develops rhabdomyolysis. Fortunately, he does recover, and that's a good thing. Unfortunately, not everybody recovers from rhabdomyolysis, such as this very, very sad case of a 20-year-old guy who unfortunately passed away from rhabdo after taking isotretinoin. Interestingly, when I read the study, he basically stopped taking it after going what appeared to be traveling abroad, and developed rhabdo while he was out of the country. And by the time he made it home, things had progressed beyond the doctor's ability to help him. So very, very sad case. There's not a lot of cases of rhabdo and isotretinoin out there, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because, again, this is a very, very sad case. And again, it's a worst case scenario that again, there's no words for this. So suggestions. What do you do to talk to your doctor about if you are going to take this medication? Number one, I think it's a good idea to ask your doctor, hey, I've heard that isotretinoin, Accutane can raise creatine kinase levels, and that's a connection to rhabdomyolysis. What do you think about all that? And then also, hey, doc, I'm also going to be exercising while taking this medication. What do you think? Could there be an interaction between the medication and exercise, raising my risk of rhabdomyolysis even more? I think that's a conversation to have with your dermatologist or doctor, whoever's prescribing this. Another thing is maybe before you start taking the medication, if you really are concerned about this, ask a doctor if they will get your baseline creatine kinase levels checked right now. Let's see what they are right now, and then you can compare them to what happens after you start taking the medication. And again, check your creatine kinase level while you're on the medication, and if you're exercising, check creatine kinase levels while you're working out and on the medication as well. I think these are some great conversation starters to have with your medical professional if you're going to take these medications. What do you think? Have you tried isotretinoin, Accutane? What have your creatine kinase levels looked like? Let me know below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, leave them below, and I'll answer them myself. I'm also going to put a link to my rhabdo book in the description, too, so you can check that out for more information. I've been investigating this for over a decade, and as you can imagine, I have a lot to say on this topic. Until next time, gang, I am Joe Cannon. Go out, be safe, and where you can, try to make a difference.